He was loud, wild, and unforgettable. The comic relief with a wrench, and the heart of Fast and Loud. Tom Smith wasn't just another mechanic. He brought chaos, charm, and comedy to Gas Monkey Garage. Fans loved him for his unfiltered energy and genuine passion. But one day, he was gone. No goodbye, no explanation. What happened? Why did the most entertaining man on the show vanish without warning? The truth behind Tom's sudden disappearance has remained buried for years, hidden behind NDAs, corporate politics, and a possible falling out with Richard Rawlings himself. And what followed was even stranger. A failed spin-off, fading appearances, and a quiet retreat from the spotlight. But now, enough pieces have surfaced to finally pull back the curtain. This isn't just a story about a TV firing, it's a deeper, darker tale of fame, fallout, and the moment Fast and Loud lost its soul. What really happened to Tom Smith? Let's find out. Before the cameras rolled, before the memes, and before the mystery of his disappearance, Tom Smith was already a character larger than life. A former U.S. Marine and self-taught mechanic, Tom wasn't your typical TV personality. He wasn't polished, scripted, or reserved. He was wild, loud, unapologetic, and real. When he first showed up on Fast and Loud, viewers were immediately drawn to him, not because he was flashy, but because he was fun. He brought a rare kind of energy to the shop that didn't feel forced or manufactured. It felt lived in. Tom's early scenes on Fast and Loud showed a man who could joke around 1 minute and turn a wrench with serious skill the next. He wasn't pretending to be a mechanic for television. He was a mechanic, and a damn good one. But more than that, Tom brought personality to the show. In an environment that often teetered between egos and deadlines, Tom's chaotic humor broke the tension. Whether he was pulling pranks, blurting out one-liners, or just being off the wall, he made Gas Monkey Garage feel more human. Paired with his good friend Jordan Butler, Tom became part of a dynamic duo that fans instantly loved. The chemistry between the two was undeniable. Classic blue-collar mechanics who weren't afraid to goof off while getting the job done. For a show like Fast and Loud, which could sometimes feel dominated by Richard Rawlings' over-the-top persona, Tom was a grounding force. He wasn't trying to steal the spotlight, he was the spotlight, without even trying. Tom wasn't an actor or a celebrity. He was the kind of guy you could imagine working in a real garage down the street. And that's exactly what made him special. His authenticity broke through the television screen. Fans related to him. They laughed with him. And, eventually, they would miss him more than they expected. Because when Tom disappeared, something went missing from the show, too. Something real. While Richard Rawlings was the face of Fast and Loud, and Aaron Kaufman its mechanical mastermind, Tom Smith was the spark, chaotic, comedic, and completely unforgettable. He wasn't hired for fame or finesse. He was brought in to wrench, joke, and bring levity to the sometimes grueling reality of custom car building. But almost immediately, something happened that no one predicted. Tom began stealing the show. Audiences gravitated toward his slapstick antics and unpredictable behavior, but there was more to it than laughs. Tom gave the show its humanity. While others focused on deadlines and drama, Tom gave viewers something they rarely saw on reality TV: unscripted joy. Whether it was taping coworkers to chairs, launching outrageous rants mid-build, or simply misplacing parts in the most ridiculous way possible, he made Fast and Loud fun. But his comedic energy didn't come at the cost of skill. Tom knew his way around a car. He could diagnose, repair, and fabricate with the best of them. It's easy to forget that beneath the wild hair and louder-than-life personality was a serious mechanic with decades of experience. His knowledge gave his jokes weight and made him more than just a sideshow. Behind the scenes, fans sensed that Tom brought balance to Gas Monkey Garage. He diffused Richard's ego. He brought Jordan Butler's dry wit to life. And most importantly, he gave viewers someone to root for. An everyman who made the madness feel like a place you'd actually want to work. Tom quickly became more than comic relief. He became essential to the chemistry of the show. But just as his popularity began to rise and fans began asking for more screen time, something strange happened. The louder his laughs got, the closer he came to the exit. And when he finally vanished, the silence spoke volumes. One episode he was there, teasing co-workers, cracking jokes, turning wrenches. The next, he was gone. No send-off, no explanation, no mention of his absence. Tom Smith had vanished from Fast and Loud without a trace. For a character so integral to the show's personality, his disappearance was jarring. And for longtime viewers, it didn't make sense. There were no on-air goodbyes, no farewell clips, nothing to explain where the loudest man in the garage had gone. His partner in crime, Jordan Butler, disappeared alongside him. It was as if they'd been edited out of existence. Fans immediately took to forums, Reddit threads, and social media to ask the question no one at Discovery or Gas Monkey seemed interested in answering. Where's Tom Smith? Speculation ran wild. Some believed he had quit. Others assumed a blow-up behind the scenes had led to a sudden firing. Some even theorized that Tom had violated a contract or gotten into legal trouble, though no such evidence ever surfaced. The real story, harder to find than anyone expected. Meanwhile, Discovery Channel and Gas Monkey Garage stayed quiet. Neither Richard Rawlings nor the network addressed Tom's absence publicly. It was a calculated silence, one that only deepened the mystery. How could someone so pivotal to the show's success just vanish? Tom's social media also went quiet for a time, fueling more rumors. Was he forced out? Silenced? Dealing with something behind the scenes? The lack of transparency turned a cast shakeup into something more sinister, a mystery begging for answers. But eventually, Tom would begin to speak, carefully, cautiously, and with just enough honesty to confirm what fans had suspected all along. His departure wasn't a happy accident. It was a consequence of crossing a line the show's creators never wanted crossed. Tom Smith didn't stay silent forever. After months of fan speculation and social media uproar, he started dropping breadcrumbs, small admissions in interviews, cryptic comments on Facebook, and carefully worded responses to fan questions. And the picture that emerged was far darker than the sanitized world of reality TV would admit. Tom and Jordan Butler weren't written out. They were fired. According to Tom, he and Jordan had butted heads with management behind the scenes, not just once, but repeatedly. The issue? A combination of creative interference, toxic work conditions, and what Tom referred to as a lack of respect for the people actually doing the work. In one particularly telling moment, Tom hinted that he had been reprimanded for standing up for other crew members during filming, questioning decisions made by producers or management. That, apparently, was the beginning of the end. Insiders suggest there was a heated confrontation, possibly with Richard Rawlings himself, that sealed their fate. While the details remain locked behind NDAs, Tom's tone when addressing the subject was always measured, but firm. He didn't go out guns blazing, but he didn't pretend it was friendly either. Tom stated in one video that he was told, "You don't tell the boss what to do." That quote alone fueled rumors that the real conflict wasn't with Discovery, but with Richard. Had Tom challenged the power structure at Gas Monkey? Had his growing popularity made him a threat to the face of the franchise? Whatever the truth, the result was clear. Tom and Jordan were let go, Not with a farewell episode, but with silence and contracts designed to keep them quiet. The man fans loved for being real had pushed back in a world that only wanted controlled chaos, and it cost him everything. After being abruptly fired from Fast and Loud, Tom Smith didn't retreat quietly. Instead, he and Jordan Butler resurfaced in 2014 on a new Discovery Channel show, Misfit Garage. Marketed as a spin-off, or more accurately, a rebellion. Misfit Garage was built around the idea of the guys Richard Rawlings didn't want. It was raw, scrappy, and seemed to offer Tom and Jordan a shot at redemption on their own terms. At first, the premise had potential. Misfit Garage promised to bring back the energy, humor, and authenticity that Fast and Loud had started to lose. The crew operated out of the newly formed Fired Up Garage, where they aimed to build and flip cars in a less polished, more grassroots style. Tom was front and center, his comedic timing, offbeat ideas, and no-nonsense attitude instantly reconnected with fans. There was a buzz. Fans who missed Tom's presence on Fast and Loud tuned in, hoping this would be his comeback. Discovery seemed to be behind it, and early episodes teased a rawer, grittier take on car culture. The chemistry between Tom, Jordan, and their new crew gave the show an underdog spirit. They weren't gas monkey, and they didn't want to be. They were misfits, and that was the whole point. But beneath the surface, something didn't sit right. While Misfit Garage was marketed as a rebel's return, some viewers began to suspect it wasn't quite as independent as it seemed. The show still aired on Discovery. The format still felt scripted, and behind-the-scenes whispers suggested the production was tightly controlled, maybe even more so than Fast and Loud. Was Misfit Garage really a fresh start, or just a way for Discovery to contain the backlash from Tom's firing? As Misfit Garage rolled into its second and third seasons, cracks began to show. The raw, unscripted spirit fans had hoped for started to fade. Builds dragged. Drama felt forced. And Tom, the wild, hilarious heart of the show, seemed increasingly subdued. The man who once lit up screens with spontaneous outbursts and off-the-wall antics now looked frustrated. Tired, even. Behind the scenes, the same problems Tom hinted at on Fast and Loud were rumored to be happening again. Tight production controls, scripted arguments, unrealistic deadlines, creative decisions made by network execs instead of mechanics. For someone like Tom, who thrived in chaos but hated being told how to be chaotic, it was a perfect storm of disappointment. Viewers noticed the shift. Online forums and YouTube comment sections turned skeptical. Some accused Discovery of watering down the show. Others believed the network had set up Misfit Garage to quietly fail, creating just enough distance from Fast and Loud to appease fans, while never letting the spin-off grow too big. Ratings began to dip. Storylines grew stale. And unlike Fast and Loud, which had a built-in marketing machine and merch empire, Misfit Garage lacked the same reach. It started strong but never found its footing. By 2018, the show quietly disappeared from Discovery's lineup. No finale, no closure, no formal cancellation. Just silence. Again. For there were no press releases, no interviews, no big goodbye. Just like after Fast and Loud, Tom faded into the shadows, leaving behind a trail of speculation and unanswered questions. For a while, he remained somewhat active on social media. He posted updates about life in Texas, talked cars, shared memories with fans, and hinted at opening a new shop. There were moments of hope. Fans thought maybe he'd finally found the freedom to do things his way, without network interference or TV contracts. But gradually, even those updates slowed, then stopped. Interviews he gave during that period painted a clear picture of a man burned by fame. He spoke openly about the stress of reality TV, the creative battles with producers, and how little control he had over the final product. His tone wasn't bitter. It was tired, like someone who had tried to play the game and realized it wasn't built for people like him. There were brief mentions of him trying to return to building cars locally. A few fans spotted him at car events or heard he was working out of a modest garage again. But the larger-than-life personality that once brought so much joy to Fast and Loud, that version of Tom seemed to be gone. Some speculated that the NDAs from Discovery and his past conflicts with Rawlings kept him from speaking freely. Others believed he simply had no interest in returning to the spotlight. Whatever the reason, Tom Smith, the man who once stole every scene he was in, chose silence over spectacle. And in an industry built on image, that silence said more than any comeback ever could. Despite being one of the most recognizable personalities to ever walk into Gas Monkey Garage, Tom Smith's name has never once been directly addressed by Richard Rawlings since his firing. Not in interviews, not on social media, not even in passing. The silence is deafening, and for fans, suspicious. Because where there's smoke, there's often a fire smoldering just out of sight. Rumors of a serious fallout between Tom and Richard have circulated for years. While details are locked behind NDAs, insiders have hinted that Tom's firing wasn't just a management decision, it was personal. Multiple sources suggest that tensions between the two had been rising long before Tom's final episode. One alleged argument reportedly turned heated enough to make producers step in. Another claim? That Tom was becoming too popular, and that his off-the-cuff personality clashed with Richard's carefully curated brand image. Fans noticed the shift. As Tom's screen time increased and his following grew, Richard seemed to pull back. Jealousy? Control? Maybe both. Richard Rawlings is a businessman, first and foremost. Fast and Loud was his empire, and having another strong personality taking the spotlight may have threatened that balance. To this day, Richard has never acknowledged Tom's firing publicly. It's a calculated omission, one that protects the brand but deepens the mystery. And while Tom has remained relatively respectful in his comments, it's clear the two haven't reconciled. There are no reunions, no collaborations, no bury the hatchet moments. Whatever happened between them, it fractured something in Fast and Loud that was never quite repaired. Because when Tom left, he didn't just exit a garage, he broke away from a power structure that may have never truly wanted him to rise in the first place. Even years after his disappearance, Tom Smith's name still echoes through the Fast and Loud fan base. Scroll through old YouTube clips, Facebook groups, or Reddit threads, and one question always reappears. Where's Tom Smith? The attachment fans had to him wasn't fleeting. It was emotional. He wasn't just a funny mechanic. He was the everyman, the heart, the one who made the show feel real. For many fans, Tom was more than comic relief. He was a break from the egos and overproduced drama. He represented the chaotic charm that made early episodes of Fast and Loud so memorable. When he left, the tone of the show shifted. It became cleaner, colder, more businesslike. Some argue it became a show about cars instead of a show about people. That kind of integrity doesn't always get rewarded in reality television. In fact, it often gets erased. His firing, his silencing, and his vanishing act from the public eye weren't just unfortunate, they were calculated. The NDAs, the lack of official statements, the sudden spin-off that never fully supported him, all of it points to a truth darker than most fans want to admit. Tom Smith was a liability to a tightly run media machine. Not because he failed, but because he wouldn't fall in line. And yet, through all of it, Tom never lashed out. He never sold out. He didn't go on an angry media tour or write a tell-all book. He quietly walked away, choosing peace over spotlight. That silence, in many ways, became more powerful than any episode he ever filmed. The legacy of Tom Smith isn't written in ratings or reruns. It's written in the laughs he sparked, the fans he inspired, and the irreplaceable energy he brought to the screen. When he left Fast and Loud, it wasn't just the end of a character, it was the end of something real. Because when Tom disappeared, Fast and Loud was never truly loud again.